Hello all. This video is on Evo-Lution Arch Linux installer, and I'm actually in the live mode on my system, recording this through a simple screen recorder. I thought I'd run through the process of installing Arch Linux along with a desktop interface and just your options and stuff. And they have a conky script. I think it's conky script. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just thought of that. So they just have keyboard shortcuts, Alt-I to start the installer. The online guide, make sure you're connected, which does include Network Manager. So wireless, for me, was very simple to set up. So you press Alt-G. It opens NetSurf web browser, and it takes you right to the forums. And here's the installation guide here. I don't have a desktop Zoom, so sorry. But if you use this, and you're online, this is what you get. It also has a benchmark program by pressing Alt-H and about hardware info. So you can click on summary, and it will gather just information very quickly about your input devices, display, media, the computer itself, and so on, as you can see. Okay, so I just did a quick check through the system, and yes, it does look at its conky RC file. Just to sum that up, just to confirm that. And it does come with leaf pads, so if you need to edit something, you can do that. So open the terminal as Alt-T. You can do a sudo pacman and check your mirror list. Of course, you can, once you install this, choose a mirror that's closer to you, but you can download from the pacman repository if you wish. Also like the little shutdown thing you have, so Alt-X. It'll bring up this. I don't know if this is recording, but so I'm just going to cancel that, of course. Okay, so if you right click on the desktop, you just basically get the installer itself, the online guide we looked at, hardware information, terminal, restart, shutdown, or you can use the keyboard shortcuts, and there's the information about the system here, how much CPU is being used. Now, if you're using a solid state drive, you want to use HDPRM. I'm not sure if that's with this. I think it is. If not, then you can download it. HD parameter, and just open that in terminal, leafpad, and then wherever it is. Like for my reference, basically. So don't worry about this part so much. So you can open another terminal. You can open several. You can do a sudo fdisk-l to see how many hard drives you have on your system. And then sudo hd parameter -I/device sdb. And I mentioned this before in my other Arch Linux Midfinger Edition video. So I have to physically unplug the cables so this comes back as not frozen. Right now it's in a frozen state. Alright, so unplugging and plugging back in, it's now not frozen, so I can proceed to doing this. And I'm not sure if there's a super user. Okay, so I can just go to super user and just copy and paste these lines in, because I like to secure erase the disk. I think it's recommended anyway. So you set a password, in this case it's test, and then you basically erase the contents, so you paste that in, and that's it. It's done. So we can move on to using the Evo-Lution Arch Linux installer. So I have a choice of right click on the desktop or Alt-I. So Alt-I, and it comes up. It'll check the system. All checks passed, and it will sync the mirror list you have. And incidentally, this is LX terminal from LXDE. Okay, highlight portions. Highlight options by pressing numbers, etc. So anyway, I'm just going to press Enter on my keyboard, prepare the system, Keyboard layout, it's US English. Configure your mirror list. It says optional, but I'm going to generate by country and choose an option. So you choose what you want. It spits out basically what it's found, and that looks fine to me. And use this mirror list. You select yes, and it's backed up the original mirror list for you. Great. Now partition the disk, and I want device SDB. So whatever you are going to use, be careful. Okay, so don't choose SDA if you have something else on there. So SDB for me. And I'm going to use the command line interface, CF disk for BIOS, DOS, because I have a legacy BIOS. So DOS, and you see there's free space of 37 gigs. It's a 40 gig, but the other stuff, the redundancy checks and stuff. So primary, I'm going to make this really simple, bootable, and all the way down to right, in type YES, and quit. Press Q to quit. So mount the partition, device SDB1. Again, careful on that. File system extension 4. And I think it's formatting the drive, so it'll take a second or so. Okay, there's a message that just went by quickly. It says mount was successful. Now, if you want a swap file, I didn't allocate any of that, so I'm just going to select the first option that says none and press enter. Once I go back to the screen and back, install base. Install base. I want the latest kernel and the base devel because I build packages from the Arch Linux user repository. It's usually generally best to do that anyway. So option number 2, press enter, and I'll go out and resync the mirrors and download Arch Linux for you and install it. And so I'll be back when this is finished. Okay, the installer went by and very quickly and downloaded all the essential stuff for wireless networking. I didn't realize it was going to do that, or else I would have started the recording. So now we want to install a bootloader. In my case, it's going to be Grub2, first option. So it's going to download Grub, and it's going to download OS Prober if you're dual booting with Windows or another Linux distribution. Now, install Grub on the same hard drive as root SDB, and that's excellent, you guys, not Evo-Lution. It automatically picked up, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want Grub on the Windows drive. I want it on the Linux hard drive that I use. So press yes, and I'll update it, and it'll look for Windows, and that's it. You go back, configure base, generate a file system table, and I like the first option, device. I don't know, I just find it very simple to work with. And please check the file system tab table, or FS tab, FSTab. Before closing, press OK. It should open LeafPad, and that's exactly what I was looking for. So you just close it and set up a host name, and just type in whatever you want, and you can set up your time zone. So you select your continent and somewhere, I don't know, and then city close to you, and set that time zone and set the hardware clock. I'm going to use local time, and it's recommended, especially if you're dual booting, which I am. So set the system locale, so you just have to scroll down through a whole list of what you want, and just pick the one you need and press enter, and it generates it for you. And set the virtual console. I'm just going to leave it at US. Press OK. Back. Configure accounts. Set up a root password, so you can type what you need. as your root. You enter that twice, add a user, and enter a password for that, and creates the users and group settings. You can go back. Install desktops. This is great too. Install graphics input and sound drivers. And it's going to install ALSA, Zorg, and XF86 input devices. So I'll go back out and it'll download the open source Zorg drivers for you. Alright, so we're at the NVIDIA. It detected the proper card. Do you want to install the open source or proprietary? Now, I've never tried this before. I'm going to try, so I'm going to answer no here and see if I can install the proprietary drivers. Actually, what's interesting, I should mention, is if you do install this in VirtualBox, you do select no, and it would install VirtualBox or VMware drivers. So I'll just select the one that I need, and then we'll move on to the next section. Alright, it took a bit of experimenting, but I had to make sure it was the NVIDIA 6.7, and those are the ones I want, 304, not the 340. And NVIDIA basic configuration, it'll spit out LeafPad, and that's pretty much what they recommend in Arch Linux. So 20-NVIDIA config. So you close that. Install a desktop environment. You can skip this, or let's install one. So you have a choice of GNOME, KDE, LXDE with Display Manager, Cinnamon, GNOME, and KDE with a Network Manager, and so on. So I'm going to install XFCE without the extras, because I like to pick and choose what I want. So press OK for whatever you want, and I'll go out and download XFCE4. And it's asking to install common packages. Pretty much all of these XDG user DIRs. Those will create all your home folders inside your home, like pictures, music, videos. GKSU not necessary, but you can remove those after, or GNOME keyring. But GVFS yes, and GNOME icon theme yes. So obviously I'm going to click yes there, and you notice that is you can use your mouse to click on that. Next step, install a network connection manager. Again, you can skip that if you want to use just NetCTL or a different one. Anyway, so just we'll get the network manager graphical, or you can do WICD, but I'm going to get the network manager. Okay, so what do we want next? Install a display manager. We'll see what we have. So I'll go back up. Neither one for me. Okay, so back. Run mkinit, yes. And once that's finished, you just click on option 7 there, done. Press enter and close the installer, and that's it. Arch Linux is installed with video drivers and your desktop environment you wish, and optional login manager. So you just close the installer and then Alt X to restart. So I'll continue this after I boot into the actual installation on my computer. Okay, so here we are. This is the final product of using the Arch Linux Evo-Lution installer. And this is the XFC desktop I asked it to install with the default panel configuration. And the NVIDIA drivers, the proprietary drivers installed without issue. So yeah, I think that should sum it up. I mean, you know, you can customize XFCE. I have videos on that and so on. One thing I should mention though is if you don't install a login manager, you'll have a blank terminal. So you have to copy the skeleton directory. So you can list, it's in etc skel, and you have to list all because it's .file-la. And there it is there, the xinit rc. So you just basically copy etc skle .xinit rc and then .xinit rc again. I already have that, so I don't want to overwrite what I have, but once it's copied, you just nano.xinitrc, and you just uncomment exec start xfce4 if that's what you're using, or if you're using GNOME or KDE or another distribution. However, that's if you don't install a window login manager, which I didn't. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up. But everything else worked great. Thanks to the Evo-Lution team. It's awesome. It's a very convenient way to install Arch Linux, and I think it should help users out that are new to it. And not only that, just help anybody else that wants to have a clean install of Arch Linux. And you can choose your desktop, and it sets everything up for you. Like I said, there's especially the wireless networking, which worked without issue again. Okay, so that's it for this one. I hope you found this useful, and to everybody watching, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.